I'll offer the amendment.
That was the county executive. All right, so I'm going to turn to Montgomery County Executive after that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, go for it.
We're ready, Lynn? Okay.
We're ready. We're live. Thank you for your patience. Sorry, everyone.
Thanks, Lynn. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started now. For those watching and viewing, just starting a couple of minutes late as we were getting our technical issues straightened up for our live feed. But good afternoon. My name is Charles Allen. I'm chair of the Transportation Planning Board, and I'm calling our TPB July 21st, 2021 meeting to order. As we continue meeting virtually during this pandemic, we'll continue to live stream the audio and video of this meeting, both online as well as on our YouTube channel. I trust that I'm not going to be jinxing the plan by saying this, that we do plan to have our September meeting as a primarily in-person meeting with members having the option to participate virtually, what people have been calling our hybrid meeting model. Staff is working to be prepared to host a hybrid meeting, so be on the lookout for more information about that in the coming months in advance of our September timeframe. While you're all familiar with our process for these virtual meetings, for the benefit of those following the meeting online or joining us for the first time, let me briefly review the procedures that we follow during a virtual meeting. To start the meeting, I'll ask Lynn to take a roll call of members or alternates to document your presence at this meeting and determine that we have a quorum. Then for agenda items, I'll have the presenter complete their briefing, then invite questions from members as we go in turn by jurisdiction. For the action items this month, we will tweak the process a bit. As usual, I will first have the presenter complete the briefing. Then I will invite questions by jurisdiction. After that, I will ask for a motion to adopt the resolution, followed by a second of the motion made. We will then discuss the motion made. When we get to vote for items 7 and 8, I'm going to ask just for nays and abstentions. For item 9, I'm going to ask for a weighted vote. I will have staff do a roll call and members can state their votes as a yay, nay, or abstain. Lastly, as always, if you please mute your microphones. Importantly, unmute your microphone and state your name and jurisdiction when you speak. Lynn, I'm going to turn to you just a second for a roll call. I will just for all members who may be joined after we were having a little bit of this discussion, I do want to make sure that you have checked your inboxes. There was a revised item that we're going to be coming to later in our agenda, but so this gives everyone time to look at it. You're looking for the timestamp email of 11:45 a.m. from Conti, and that's going to have information and the updated language that will be coming up later on in our meeting. So with that, then let me turn to you for our roll call.
Great. Thank you, Chair Allen. So I'm going to state your district or your jurisdiction or your agency, and you please state your name for the record. We'll start with District Council, Ms. Pinto or Ms. Hanson. District Council. Oh, okay, great. Thanks. District Council, Charles Allen. Gotcha.
I'm here.
Yep. District Council, Christina Henderson.
Here.
Thank you. District Office of Planning.
Andrew Trueblood is here.
Thank you. District Department of Transportation.
Anna Chamberlain's here.
Thank you. Moving on to Maryland, City of Bowie.
Adrian Boafo with the City of Bowie.
So Charles County.
Reuben Collins present.
Thank you. College Park.
Patrick Wyan, Mayor.
Thank you. Frederick
Denise
County.
Mitchell, council member.
And Denise Mitchell, gotcha. Frederick County.
Jan Gardner here.
Thank you. City of Frederick.
Kelly Russell present.
Hello. City of Gaithersburg.
Neil.
Thought I saw Neil, but I will go back and look, or Dennis will check.
I'm here.
Oh, thanks. City of Greenbelt.
Emmett Jordan here.
Thanks. City of Laurel.
Mike Close here.
Thanks. Montgomery County Executive. Mr. Elrich.
Here. I'm here.
Thanks. Montgomery County Legislative.
Glenn Orland representing the County Council here.
Thanks. Prince George's County Executive.
Terry Bellamy and Vic Weisberg here.
Great. Prince George's County Legislative.
Tavares, Vice Chair Denny Tavares, present.
Great, thanks. City of Rockville.
Bridget Donald Newton is here.
Thanks. Tacoma Park.
Casey Costick here.
Thanks. Maryland House of Delegates.
Mark Corman, present.
Thanks. Maryland Senate.
Nancy King, present.
Thanks. Maryland Department of Transportation.
Earl Lewis, present.
Thanks. Moving on to Virginia, City of Alexandria.
Aguirre, present.
Thanks. Arlington County.
Christian Dorsey, present.
Thanks. City of Fairfax.
David Meyer, present.
Thanks. Fairfax County Legislative. There's a couple of you.
Walter Alcorn's here.
Thanks.
James Walkinshaw's here.
Thank you. Falls Church.
Dave Snyder here.
Thanks. Fauquier County.
Adam Schellenberger here.
Thank you. Loudon County.
Matt Latour.
Thank you.
Kristen Umstock here.
Gotcha. City of Manassas.
Pam Sabeski, present.
Thanks. City of Manassas Park.
Jeanette Rischel here.
Thank you. Prince William County.
Ann Wheeler here.
Thank you.
And this is Paula Bulita, alternate member.
Great. Thank you. Virginia House of Delegates.
David Reed, present.
Great. Thank you. Virginia Senate.
Senator Dave Marsden, present.
Thank you. Virginia Department of Transportation.
Rob Carey, present.
Thank you. WMATA.
Mark Phillips, present.
Thank you. Moving on to our ex officio, Federal Highway Administration.
Sandra Jackson.
Hi, Sandra. Federal
Hi.
Transit Administration.
Dan Koenig, Federal Transit Administration.
Thank you. National Capital Planning Commission.
Julia Coster, NCPC.
Thank you. Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. And National Park Service.
Tammy Stedham.
Thanks. Did I miss Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority? Okay, so this, I will say, I've been doing the TPB since like 2002, and this is the most full attendance ever. So thank you and welcome. Attendance, it's over. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Lynn. I think really this is just the expectation for every month moving forward.
Yes.
So yeah, we're checking everyone's attendance at this point. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. All right, Lynn, I also know that we have received a lot of written comments from the public for today's meeting. It would take us about a week or two to read every single one of them into the record. They all, however, are a part of the record. But Lynn, let me turn to you if you can also help summarize the public comments that we've gotten. We also, I understand the comments received have been, we post them to the meeting's webpage so folks can review them. But Lynn, let me turn to you to help summarize what we've heard from the public.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Allen. So for the July 2021 TPB meeting, TPB received a total of 563 comments.
Oh, my.
The 563 comments include 19 PDF letters from organizations and members of the public. 56 comments were received by the Virginia Department of Transportation that were forwarded to TPB staff. And we had one transcribed voicemail from a member of the public. So, and this is ironic, by the way, there were 270 comments that asked the board to remove the I-270 P3 project from the plan. So reasons for opposing this project include the project will have negative impacts on the quality of living, the environment, and in people being able to afford toll lanes. There were 293 comments that asked the board to include the P3 project in order to fix I-270 and the American Legion Bridge now. Reasons in support of the project include the need to reduce congestion, the need to provide more transportation options, the need to provide express lanes for those dependent on driving. So as Mr. Allen stated, a document with all the comments can be found on our event page. That concludes my report. Thank you, Chairman Allen.
Thank you very much, Lynn. We appreciate it. And thank you to the many members of the public that have been providing comments as well. All right, so we are going to move through our agenda. What you're going to see us do is try to move relatively quickly through some of our other items because I know that, I know that the attendance is here for the technical committee report and everything else, but I know that we will have a large amount of time reserved for one of our larger action items coming up in the agenda. So we always start with a review and adopting the minutes of our June 16th meeting. So before I ask for comments and changes, I'll only make a motion to adopt the June 16th meeting. And is there a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. And could you just, so that we have it for the record, name and jurisdiction of who just made that second?
Second, Koenig, Alexandria.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, is there any discussion or changes to the minutes, or that I'll move to a vote? All right. I don't hear any corrections or comments on the meeting minutes. So for the vote, this is not a roll call vote. Remember, if you do have a comment like this, make sure you say name of jurisdiction. But we're going to move to the vote on this, which is where I ask for abstentions or nays. Your silence means a yes. I'm a call by jurisdiction. So any abstentions or nays from the District of Columbia? From Maryland? From Virginia? And from WMATA or any other federal agencies? All right, thank you. Let the record reflect that was unanimous vote in support of the meeting minutes. Next, let's turn to the technical committee report. We have a written summary of our July 9th meeting. I know everyone has a chance to read that. In the interest of time, we're going to forego Jason briefing, but he is here to help answer any of the questions that members may have. So what I'm going to do is by jurisdiction, call on you to see if you have any questions for Jason and the technical committee report. So let me turn to WMATA and any other agencies if there's any questions that you have for Jason. Let me turn to Virginia, to Maryland, and to district. All right, not hearing any. So Jason, thank you very much for the summary report. I'm going to turn next to our Community Advisory Committee report. We have a written summary of the July 15th meeting. I will note that CAC took time and held breakout groups to discuss the actions that we took last month on the conformity inputs. The findings of those discussions have been shared with us. Thank you to Elisa for doing this. It's a very helpful feedback. Again, in the interest of time for our agenda, we're going to forego the briefing, but she is here to help answer any questions that members may have for her. So let me turn to questions. Again, I'll do this by jurisdiction. So let me turn to the district. Any questions or comments? And next, let me turn to Maryland. And next, let me turn to Virginia. And next, WMATA and any other agencies. All right, not hearing any. Thank you very much. All right, next we're going to move to the steering committee actions and report from the director. All right, we have a written summary of our July 9th meeting. I know everyone's had a chance to read that. Again, in the interest of time, we're going to forego Conti's larger briefing. But there are two items from that meeting that Conti is going to share with us and discuss. So Conti, let me turn to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So the two items that I would like to highlight, the first one is an action that the steering committee took to accept the recommendations of the selection committee on allocating federal transportation alternative program grant funds for 6 projects in Maryland, totaling about $3.3 million. All of these are described in pages 10 and 11. And the steering committee also accepted the recommendation for 4 projects in the District of Columbia for about $1 million. And the projects are described on page 13. The second item that I would like to highlight is the steering committee acted to approve WMATA's request to amend the TPB's FY 2022 TIP. Primarily to make revisions to the funding amounts in all 13 category of projects that are in the WMATA portion of the TPB TIP. The amendment was done since the WMATA board approved their capital program, capital budget, and we wanted to make sure that the funding in their capital budget and the funding in the TPB TIP for FY 2022 matched. And that's one of the requirements that the feds have for WMATA to be able to access the federal funds. During that discussion, however, a comment was made that WMATA board had recently adopted a strategic plan on moving to electric buses, that this budget amendment and this capital budget did not speak to that. And the general sense was that WMATA should be moving more expeditiously in converting their fleet to electric in support of and consistent with similar actions being taken by other transit agencies in the region. So I was asked to ensure that the board heard the sentiment. So I wanted to highlight that as part of the report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Conti. So with that, actually, let me turn to see if there are any questions. Again, I'll go by jurisdiction to do that. So let me start, see if there are any questions from WMATA or any other agencies. And are there any questions from Virginia? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, sorry. Who's that?
This is Supervisor Turner from Loudon. Not so much a question, but just a comment. Member of the WMATA board, I'd be happy at the appropriate time, not in today's meeting, to have a longer discussion about the board's work on sustainability and fleet planning.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions, Virginia? All right, let me turn to Maryland. And then to the district. All right, Conti, thank you very much for that. Next on our agenda item is the chairman's remark. First off, I understand that we have a few new members on the board. Let me start by welcoming State Senator Nancy King from Maryland, Ms. Jan Gardner, County Executive of Frederick County, Maryland, and Delegate David Reed from the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're glad to have all of you with us today, so thank you. You'll obviously know we have relatively fewer items on the agenda today. However, I suspect that we're actually going to need all the time that we have to get through those items. So we, as the executive officers and TPB staff, work to try to shorten this agenda. So in that vein, I will also try to get to the point. Let me start by sharing this about agenda item number 9 now. And the reason why I'm doing this now in my comments is to help make sure that everyone has time to prepare and have what our expectations. What we have in front of us today under agenda item number 9. Ms. Hen, I think you're unmuted.
Lids.
There we go. All right, thank you. So what we have in front of us today under agenda item number 9 is essentially revisiting a decision that we took last month after discussions that we've been having for many months before then. The gist of the matter is that the board is engaged in an update of its long-range transportation plan, which reflects a compilation of decisions made by each one of us on our priorities for investments in the transportation sector. Investments to operate and maintain the transportation system and expand the system's capacity as appropriate. These decisions should be made in a manner that advances a set of regional priorities that this board has developed over a long period of time, going back as far as 1995, for a sustainable, livable mobility that brings prosperity to all within the region. Last month, as part of this update of the plan document, after months of review and discussion, the board collectively determined that proposed HOT lanes on portions of I-495 and I-270 did not appear to have the majority consensus. So the board agreed not to proceed with that proposal at that time. Since our June 16th decision, however, there have been 2 developments. One, some members of the board from Maryland and Virginia have asked the TPB to re-examine the decision and consider adding the project to the plan update. Then there are others who think the project is not ready at this time to be in the plan. So today we're going to take time to consider this request to add the project back and then act on that request. To be most efficient with the time available and to try to be as fair to all parties here, I'm going to propose the following process to facilitate the discussions and the actions. What I'm going to do is allocate time for the speakers, and I'm going to do my best to strictly adhere to a clock. This is not with the intent of curtailing comments. Rather, this is the way I believe that we can use that limited time that we have available during the meeting most effectively, and how I can work hard to be fair to all. Most of us are legislators in some capacity, so we have some degree of experience with working with limited time to speak, even though it's not in our natural instincts. When we get to the agenda item number 9, I'm going to ask Conti to briefly recap the action that's in front of the board. Then I'm going to turn to MDOT for 5 minutes to present their case and their proposed resolution project back into the plan and its conforming analysis at that time. Once they have made their motion, and that is in front of us, I'm then going to turn and recognize the Montgomery County Executive for 5 minutes for 2 reasons. One, the county originated the proposal that we acted on last month to drop the HOT lanes project. And second, my understanding is that since our last meeting, MDOT has reached out to a number of jurisdictions to address concerns, and the county executive will also then propose an amendment to the resolution. After this proposed amendment to the resolution has been processed, we'll then turn to rounds. The way we're going to do this is everybody will have an opportunity to have 2 minutes. Each member can share sentiments, they can make a statement, they can ask a question, but we will go through rounds that way, and there will be a 2-minute clock that's running. At the end of all the comments and questions, depending upon time available, we can then add a second round if we still have time available for folks to come back around. And then after that, we will call the question and have the staff take a weighted vote. I said that there were 2 developments since our last meeting. I just went over the first one. The second development is tied to the first. MDOT has suggested that by removing the HOT lane project from the plan, MDOT would lose $1.2 billion in revenues that it was counting on to fund a few transit and highway projects that we had approved last month. So if the resolution to add the HOT lane project back into the long-range plan fails, MDOT will then propose to remove those projects that it believes it does not have the funding for. TPB staff agree that something needs to be done to ensure that the MDOT projects are fully funded. So what we're going to do is, again, let us first act on the question of whether to add the HOT lane project back, and then the potential for another action that comes after that, and we'll see where we go from there. So I hope that explains and sets the level expectation of the way in which we're going to go through this conversation in just a little bit. Now we have a few action items to get through before we move to that. So I'm going to next turn to item number 7 on our agenda. And this is the Regional Roadway Safety Program approval. The first action item is something that we can all be proud of. A couple of years ago, the board said that safety on the region's roadways did not reflect our goals, our aspirations, and committed to work to address this. We did an extensive study of our region to understand what factors were leading to these unacceptable safety outcomes. We identified a set of targeted strategies to address these. We then went a step further, and using some of the limited funds that we set up a roadway safety program to provide grants for regional planning. We established a new grants program to help member agencies with their efforts to implement strategies to help improve safety. This annual grant program has $250,000 in the budget. I'm going to turn to John Sherman. He's going to present us with the project applications recommended to receive inaugural technical assistance grants. This is one of the ways that we were able to move towards implementation. Once we do that, we'll have a motion. I'll make a motion to approve those safety program technical assistance grants, and then move to a second, and then to a vote. So John, let me turn to you as you introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Allen. And while the slides are coming up, I just want to say I am pleased to share with you today the first ever set of recommended Regional Roadway Safety Program projects. My remarks today will be brief, but there is a memo with additional information in your packet. So go to the next slide, please. The Regional Roadway Safety Program was established and funded, as mentioned by Chair Allen, by the TPB last year, and today you will see the initial set of projects recommended for your approval. Resolution R3-2021, adopted in July of 2020, states that the purpose of this program is, quote, to assist TPB member jurisdictions and the region to develop and/or implement projects, programs, or policies to equitably improve safety outcomes for all roadway users. I think you will see that the recommended projects fulfill that purpose. Like the TLC program, the Regional Roadway Safety Program provides technical assistance to our member jurisdictions and agencies. However, this program is designed to promote TPB's roadway safety priorities, and these are improving road user behavior and identifying and designing safety countermeasures. In fact, the resolution last year provides dozens of such countermeasures that this board would like to see implemented across the region. And importantly, and this is clearly spelled out in the resolution, this program must equitably improve safety for all roadway users. And I think that you will see that the recommended projects advance the TPB's roadway safety priorities as well. Also, like the TLC, these are small projects, $30,000 to $60,000 for planning projects and up to $80,000 for projects that include preliminary engineering. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Before the next slide, as mentioned, the program was funded at $250,000 for this fiscal year and next fiscal year, and it's anticipated that the funding will continue in the future. Also, you can see that the funding amounts from each of the states and the technical assistance program before. So this slide, this application period for this inaugural round of the program was opened on January 19th and closed on March 12th. which is roughly 8 weeks. And also, like the TLC program, applicants were able to submit an optional abstract for staff to provide feedback and suggestions. We received 11 applications totaling $700,000 in funding requests, 4 from Maryland jurisdictions and 7 from Virginia jurisdictions. Next slide, please. The projects that you will hopefully approve today are recommended by a selection panel consisting of 5 members, 1 TPB staff person plus 1 roadway safety official from each of our 3 state DOTs, plus a safety official from the FHWA's DC division. Each selection panel member independently scored each application 2 ways. 1, a qualitative judgment based on their professional expertise at 50 points, and 2, their assessment of how each project addresses the TPB's safety priorities. And these scores were combined then into a total score. We then convened a meeting where the panelists discussed each of the projects and came to a consensus as to which of them to recommend for funding. A rough geographical balance with respect to funding was sought and achieved between Maryland and Virginia projects. Next slide, please. The major challenge was that we have $250,000 in funding and $700,000 in funding requests. Even so, the panel was able to recommend 5 of the 11 projects. All of the recommended projects address 1 or more of the TPB funding priorities. All of the recommended projects either directly or indirectly encouraged improved roadway user behavior. And all the recommended projects work to identify and or design safety countermeasures. All of the recommended projects are also either within or connect to equity emphasis areas. 3 of the projects are from Maryland jurisdictions and 2 are from Virginia jurisdictions. Next slide, please. Here is the list of recommended projects. The first one is from Montgomery County for the Maryland 650 High Injury Network Safety Study and Design Project. This is actually a joint project of both Montgomery and Prince George's counties. And this section of Maryland 650, or New Hampshire Avenue, straddles both sides of the county line. The project includes a comprehensive road safety audit to evaluate the traffic safety needs of all modes, walking, biking, and driving, and design plans for the selected safety countermeasures. And this project is entirely within equity emphasis areas. The next one is from Prince George's County, and it is a project for roadway safety audits on several county-maintained roadway segments to identify bicycle and pedestrian safety issues and provide design recommendations for safety improvements. Each location is in an equity emphasis area and was selected using a data-based approach. Third, the City of Laurel will conduct a roadway safety audit on a 0.7-mile segment of Bowie Road between Route 1 and Laurel Bowie Road. This section of roadway is within an equity emphasis area and has high numbers of pedestrians and a history of crashes, including a recent pedestrian fatality. The Arlington, Virginia school zone speed camera guidelines proposal from Arlington County was particularly interesting to the panel. In 2020, Virginia passed a law that allows speed cameras in school zones across the state, and Arlington County is looking to implement this technology to enhance safety in school zones. So this project is for consultant support to develop guidelines to help identify, prioritize, and implement speed cameras in school zones across the county. This is also something that could have broader regional applicability, especially in our Northern Virginia jurisdictions. And finally, the Herndon Parkway Complete Street Safety Improvements Project in the town of Herndon in Fairfax County will identify and develop safer infrastructure for road users, including bicyclists, pedestrians traveling between the W and OD Trail, the Herndon Metro Rail Station, and an adjacent equity emphasis area. Next slide, please. So assuming these projects are approved by this board, we will begin the consultant selection process as soon as possible. And I also want to make a note that we're going to open up the fiscal year 2022 application period in August. So I hope to be back in front of you several months from now with the next batch of projects. Chair Allen, this concludes my remarks, and I recommend the approval of these Regional Roadway Safety Program projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sherman. Again, just for process, for everybody to know what I'm going to make a motion to accept this. Hopefully there's a second, and then we'll turn if there's any questions or debate, and then we'll move to a vote. So let me make the motion to approve the Regional Roadway Safety Program Technical Assistance Grants. And is there a second?
Kelly Russell from Frederick will second.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. With that, let me see if there are any questions to Mr. Sherman, and let me start with the District of Columbia. All right, I'll recognize myself here just for a quick second. Mr. Sherman, as we look to the fall, you said that the next round of applications start for FY22 in August, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have a rough timeline in your mind as to how quickly those will be evaluated and put back before TPB? Do we expect it by the end of the calendar year? Would it be the first part of the new year? What do you think there?
I would expect before the end of the calendar year.
Okay, great. I'll just say I think this is incredibly important. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this, as well as all the DOTs working to take advantage of this opportunity. I think as a region, we've talked about this at TPB numerous times, about the ways in which we see Vision Zero being a title, but oftentimes not actually following through. I think this is one of the concrete steps that all of us regionally are going to be able to take. And I, in particular, am really glad to see that so many of these are focused on our equity emphasis areas. I think when we look at pedestrian fatalities, bicyclist fatalities, we see, frankly, a uneven and inequitable break on who is killed and injured in this. And so I really am grateful to see the priority and see this as a real regional priority put in the right place. So just want to add some brief comments there. Let me turn to Maryland for any questions or comments on the motion.
Earl Lewis, I second your comments you just made. Chair Allen, this is really a great initiative, and the fact that we're putting resources behind it to do everything we can to make our roads and sidewalks, trails as safe as possible for all of our citizens is a positive step. And obviously MDOT looks forward to working with our partners in the National Capital Region as we move forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis. Anyone else from Maryland? All right, let me turn to Virginia.
Mr. Chair, Dave Snyder, City of Falls Church. I just want to say that each day's headlines remind us that motor vehicle related fatalities and injuries continue to plague this region, even during the pandemic, as it is nationwide. This board took a series of steps. This is just one component part, and I fully support that, and I look forward to the results of Arlington's work so we can apply it more broadly using the new legislative authority given to us by the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I hope that we'll get reports at some time in the relevant future about how we're doing on the other component parts of this highway safety effort. Again, thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any other, Virginia?
Mr. Chairman, this is Rob Carey with VDOT. Just want to echo the comments that were made. Really, this across Virginia, 847 people lost their lives last year. Many in vehicles, but unfortunately as well, many vulnerable users outside of vehicles, pedestrians and bicyclists. We're very focused on this as an agency, our number one priority, actually. So I just want to say how glad we are to see this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. And any other comments from Virginia? Then let me turn to WMATA and any other federal agencies. All right, we'll now move this for a vote. Again, what I'm asking for are nays or abstentions. Your silence means yes. So are there any nays or abstentions from the District of Columbia? From Maryland? From Virginia? And from WMATA or any of the federal agencies? All right, thank you very much. Let the record reflect that was a unanimous vote in support. Again, thank you, Mr. Sherman. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to agenda item number 8. This is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, funding recommendations, and an FY21-24 TIP amendment to include those projects. This next action is a repeat of something nice we did 3 months ago when we allocated about $530,000 in federal pandemic relief funding for agencies that provide transportation service to older adults and people with disabilities. There is now a second round of relief funding through the American Rescue Plan Act. We've had the chance to be able to make really significant investments in this space earlier this year, and Lynn is now going to present us with the project applications being recommended to receive another $530,000 in funding. So Lynn, let me turn to you.
Thanks, Chair Allen, and good afternoon, everybody. So in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly go through the slide deck, but additional information and all the details are included in your packet in a memo. Next slide. So ARPA included $50 million for 5310 enhanced mobility for the DC, Maryland, Virginia urbanized area. Actually, I'm sorry, next slide. Meant to skip that one. Okay. Which is a few dollars, literally a few dollars more than CRISA, which was before you a few months ago. The funding is 100% federal, and FTA wanted the funds to be prioritized for operating expenses and payroll, and also transportation to vaccination was an allowable expense under the program. Pre-award authority goes back to January 20th, 2020. So if any of the projects were already incurring expenses for what they're applying for, it's potential that they could be reimbursed that far back. Next slide. So the eligibility was the exact same as CRISA. So it went to existing or recent subrecipients of enhanced mobility for the same project or purpose. Next slide. Selection criteria was the same as well. We adapted our enhanced mobility selection criteria to these particular opportunities. Next slide. So the selection committee of internal individuals met on July 6th and recommended 5 of the 9 projects that were that we received applications for. And I will say, wanted to thank the TPB officers and the AFA chair for their time and concurring with the project recommendations. We appreciate that. So in the recommendations, priority was given to those who didn't receive funding under CRISA, and with the idea of spreading the opportunity and the funding around the region and to other agencies who are also impacted. And these applications were also higher scoring applications. Next slide. So for the 532,226 available, we received almost double in requests. There were 9 applications received, 1 from DC, 4 from Maryland, and 4 from Virginia. As I said, 5 of those 9 were recommended for funding, and I'm going to briefly go over which projects were recommended. Next slide. Oh, next one. Thank you. So Boat People SOS received recommendation for $100,000 for managing transportation to vaccination sites. So they do mobility management services. The geographic focus for this one is Northern Virginia with some crossover into DC. Dulles Area Transportation Association did receive CRISA money. This was a little bit of money to add to that project for their project that provides transportation to veterans who are seniors and or have a disability to vaccination sites in partnership with Northern Virginia Veterans Association. Next slide. Easter Seals serving DC, Maryland, Virginia is recommended for funding at $188,856. Their focus is Maryland, and this would be to restart their direct transportation services for their adult day program participants. Next is Liberty Transportation Management Corporation, and they are recommended for funding for a little over $143,000 in operating expenses for wheelchair accessible taxis. Next slide. I should say wheelchair accessible taxi services. And then the final project is New Horizons Supported Services. They also provide direct transportation for participants with disabilities to get to employment, recreation, and they were funded at $69,360. This was a portion of what they applied for. Some of what they had applied for was funded under their enhanced mobility project. So this would be for vehicle lease, to lease additional vehicles for their fleet, and then also fuel expenses for their entire fleet. Next slide. So before you is a request to approve the recommended projects and amend the TIP to include them. I have already been in touch with all the applicants about the recommendations, and those not selected understand, why they weren't selected, and they've been encouraged to apply again. We have our current enhanced mobility solicitation that's open right now for $6.3 million federal dollars. And then also all of the projects recommended for funding are currently federally compliant. So we would move on with the approval today, if received, to complete an application and FTA's grants management system, and then submit those projects for final FTA approval. So staff recommends approval of R12022, an amendment of the 2021 to 2024 TIP to include it. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you, Chair Allen. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. All right, so I'm going to make the motion to adopt resolution R1 2022 to approve the supplemental enhanced mobility grant funding and to approve the TPB's TIP to include these projects. Is there a second? And then after that, we'll turn to questions by jurisdiction.
Second, Pam Sebesky.
Second.
Thanks. I heard a couple. I think I heard Pam first. So Pam, we'll have the record reflect you as the second. So thank you very much. So let me turn to any questions or comments on this. Let me start with WMATA and any other federal agencies first. All right, next let me turn to Virginia. And next let me turn to Maryland. All right, and then next let me turn to the District of Columbia. All right, not hearing any. So we're now going to turn to the vote on this. Again, your silence is a yes. I'm going to be asking for nays or abstentions. So let me start with the District of Columbia. Any nays or abstentions? Maryland? Virginia? And WMATA, any federal agencies? All right, thank you very much, Lynn. Let the record reflect a unanimous vote in support to approve Resolution R1 2022 and approve the TPB tips for these projects.
Thank you, Chair Allen, and everyone. I look forward to getting this money out into the region. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lynn. All right, we're a handful of minutes ahead of schedule on our agenda. So we are now going to move to item number 9 on our agenda. I'm going to make a couple of comments just on process again before we get started. So again, we start with a level set of expectations here. This is amending the conformity projects approved on June 16, 2021, which is resolution R19, 2021, to reestablish the fiscal constraint for Maryland projects. I mentioned at the top of my remarks how I am going to be trying to handle discussions during this item during our debate. Staff has tried to work with technology to keep track of the time, and I understand that all of us should be able to see a timer on our screen. So before we begin, what I'm going to do is turn to Conti to review what it is that the board has in front of them under this item and what actions will be taken today, so that we have that set first. After we get through that, that's when I'm then going to turn, let me just walk through this really fast. I'm then going to turn with what we're kind of calling our part A here, which is going to be the motion that we're expecting to be made from MDOT, which would be consideration of adding the Maryland I-270, I-495 hot lanes construction project to the conformity inputs. The way that we're going to propose doing this is that MDOT will have 5 minutes to state its case and add the project to the conformity inputs and subsequently then make their resolution. I'm then going to turn to recognize Montgomery County Executive for 5 minutes to present their proposed amendment to the resolution. That proposed amendment, just to make sure everyone is working off the same copy, was circulated at 11:45 a.m. In your emails. It also has been posted to the TPB Meeting Materials website. After we have that action, we'll then move through what we're essentially calling our first round. In the spirit of trying to make sure everyone has equal time, I'll be turning in anyone who would like to speak, whether that be a comment, whether that be a question that you'd like to direct. We'll do and have 2-minute rounds. If there is time left, then we can still do a round after that. We'll have to see how time is going. After that, we'll then move to a vote. So, Conti, let me turn to you first then to help give us a quick review of what the board has in front of us and what action we're taking. And then after that, I'm going to turn and recognize MDOT.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be brief. As you have noted, there are 2 parts to this agenda item, Part A and Part B. Part A is the proposal to add the Hot Lanes project to the conformity inputs. Part B is dependent on the outcome of Part A. So I will focus on Part A first. The board will be considering a request made by MDOT and at least 6 other TPB members to amend the project that the board approved on June 16th to be included in air quality conformity by adding the Maryland I-270, I-495 Heartlands construction project. Resolution R2 2022 is the resolution that the board will be working with. And the documents that support R2 2022 was provided to you and has been posted on the TPB meeting website as well. There are several documents in this support supporting this resolution. You will find a staff memo, and then that provides the background of today's action. And then you will see copies of all the letters TPB has received from members of the board, as well as members of other legislative bodies, such as Maryland General Assembly and the US Congress. And finally, you will see a copy of the staff resolution that was included, which is R2 2022, without the amendments that had been proposed. Earlier this morning, I provided all of you with amendments that has been proposed. And then subsequently at 11:45, I sent a correction to a part of that language because there was a typo that I apologize we did not catch. So that is what you will be acting on in Part A. Should the board, however, after considering all of the discussions, vote not to include the Heartlands project, then we will move to Part B. Under Part B, the TPB will not be taking an action today other than issuing a notice that the TPB will be convening a special meeting in August, on August 18th, a brief meeting for the limited purpose of considering MDOT's proposal to remove 5 additional transit and highway projects from the list that the TPB approved on June 16th. And MDOT's proposal to remove those is primarily because with the removal of the Heartlands project, MDOT asserts that they would be short about $1.2 billion to fund these other projects. And the only way to balance the finances would be to remove those projects. So that at today's meeting, TPB will simply be issuing notice and reconvene in August, on August 18th virtually, should that become necessary. So, and all of the meeting materials or supporting documents for the August action has already been provided under Part B. So that's a quick overview, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to answer any questions on what is in front of the board today. Thanks.
Thanks, Conti. And so just to clarify for folks, as you may hear us refer to this as Part A and Part B. Part B, which would be removing certain projects, just so that everyone's on the same page here, that would not be action. So should the MDOT resolution that's about to be made not pass, then you will not be asked to take action today on a set of projects to be removed. That would be noticed, and then that we would call a special meeting in August with that being the only item on the agenda to take that up. So I just want to make sure everyone kind of has that clear. So again, before we turn to members for both the resolution and then the debate that I believe that will come after that, right now, let me turn to folks. If you have any specific questions for Conti, just on what's in front of us and what action we're about to take, and then I'll turn as we then move to the substance of the matter. But let me turn for jurisdictions to that. Anyone from the District of Columbia? And next, let me turn to Virginia. And to WMATA, any other federal agencies. All right, Conti, thank you very much. All right, so as I outlined, what I'm going to be doing next is turning to MDOT. I'm going to be giving them 5 minutes to essentially present and move their resolution. Just for clarity's sake here, am I turning to Secretary Slater or to Mr. Lewis?
I'm going to make the motion and then hand it over to Secretary Slater.
Got it. Okay, Lewis, I'll recognize you, and then you hand it over to Secretary Slater.
Thank you, Chair Allen. So the Maryland Department of Transportation motions that the board adopt TPB Resolution R2 2022 to add the Maryland I-270, I-495 Hot Lanes construction project to the conformity inputs for the visualized 2045 update and the FY 2023 to the FY 2026 tip. With that, I turn it over to Secretary Slater, the Maryland Department of Transportation, for remarks.
Thank you, Chair Allen, members of the TPB, for allowing me to speak today on the importance of the American Legion Bridge 270 to I-70 traffic relief plan. Marylanders are returning to our roadways, approaching numbers that were pre-pandemic. Traffic volumes on the Capitol Beltway at the American Legion Bridge have exceeded pandemic levels for the same week in July. That's what the data says. 83% of Maryland interstates are congested, and that's almost double the national average of 47%. Our traffic data illustrates that on 270 from the split from 117, and then on 495 from the Virginia line to the 270 West Spur, we have the highest daily traffic in the state. But let's talk about the plan and how we got here, because it's not the same proposal we started with. 4 years ago, we had a project proposal that included 4 express toll lanes over 48 miles of roadway. Since then, through extensive coordination and input from affected counties and the public and stakeholders, we've reduced the scope of the project. We're incentivizing people, not cars, with our hot lanes. We've committed to a bike and pedestrian connection over the Potomac River. Much of the new added lanes on 270 will be done by repurposing the pavement between the general purpose lanes and the CD lanes. Where we have these CD lanes today, the roadway for those through lanes generally works within the existing pavement. The vast majority of any work outside the existing pavement is for stormwater retaining walls and new noise walls. Through coordination efforts, MDOT's plan is now completely in sync with TPB's aspirational initiative to expand the express highway network. Throughout the multi-year process of the Long Range Plan Task Force and Visualize 2045, the TPB unanimously agreed that the projected congestion by 2040 was unacceptable, and only the aspirational initiatives which significantly improve those improvements would be accepted. That includes our express highway network, as well as express bus, rapid transit, and transit ways. It's been proven in Virginia, but with a 20% reduction in congestion on the general purpose lanes. The modeling we have in our study shows similar results with a 30% reduction and a 25% reduction in the PM. But the project we have on the table today is regionally focused, it's interconnected, it's multimodal, and it includes a piece of critical infrastructure. It's regional. It'll connect the managed lane system into Virginia with 370 and the ICC over to 95. It's multimodal. It creates a bike and pedestrian connection across the American Legion Bridge to the Sino Canal. It includes and invests in significant transit solutions. If you look at our partners across the river, I-66 inside the Beltway toll revenues are now going to back bonds to help fund Long Bridge and provide annual transit payments. Adaptable, hot solutions work to really manage growth and change behavior. Again, if you look at Virginia, carpooling on 495 has increased by 550% from the opening year of FY20, and the express lanes carry twice as many people than the general purpose lanes. When you're looking at state of good repair, our needs are significant. The American Legion Bridge and a whole host of other bridges and rail systems are in need of attention. We have a $4 billion backlog on our highway network and a $2 billion backlog on our transit network. We're fortunate that the American Legion Bridge and 270 have a strong market for private sector, and we attracted 3 bids. With this P3, we have an estimated $6 billion in private equity. Of the $6 billion, it's estimated that will offset $1.23 billion in public funding that will be needed over the next decade to just maintain that state of good repair and provide no congestion relief. Delivery options are different for each one of the pieces of infrastructure. We just have to tackle this one now. So thank you again for your time this afternoon and your thoughtful consideration of MDOT's resolution. We're hopeful that you will think regionally and vote yes, and we will continue to work together as we move forward, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Secretary Slater. All right, and I'm going to bring in Sharon because I want to make sure everyone is crystal clear on process as well. So the resolution has been moved by Mr. Lewis. I'm going to turn and recognize Montgomery County Executive now, who's going to be proposing an amendment. And Sharon, can you just confirm, also just so we make sure we confirm this for the record, that should MDOT accept the amendment as friendly, that then becomes what's in front of us. We'll then need a second after that, and then the debate proceeds on the amended resolution. Can you confirm that for us, Sharon?
Actually, Chair Allen, since MDOT has decided to proceed with their original resolution, you need a second to that right now, unless MDOT wants to take the Montgomery resolution as its resolution.
I would take a second now.
Kelly Russell from Frederick will second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Russell. All right, so I hear a second, so we now have the resolution properly seconded. So,
Yes, sir.
Sharon, just to make sure that I'm confirming this, I'm going to turn to Maryland County Executive. They're going to be proposing an amendment. MDOT can then accept it as friendly. And then in the debate, what's on the table is then the amended piece. Is that correct?
It is as soon as Ms. Russell also accepts it as friendly as the second.
Got it. Okay. All right. So now then let me turn and recognize Maryland County Executive. County Executive, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Let me turn to you.
Sorry. Get my video on. Can you see me? Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I guess my first question is I could offer this as a friendly amendment and reserve my 5 minutes actually to speak about the rest of this.
That's fine by me.
I will
So I'll offer it as a friendly amendment.
And we will accept
accept
that, and that will accept that as a friendly amendment.
And Ms.
Point of order.
as well.
I've lost the process. Do you need a second?
According to the General Counsel, both the maker of the motion and the second of the motion have to accept it as friendly.
Do accept. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, County Executive, let me turn back to you now.
Okay, so, thank you very much. And so at the end of the day, we're going to be voting against this whole package largely because nothing has really changed since your previous vote on this. We appreciate the agreement on some improvements regarding the Quarter Cities Transitway, but I just want to say this was never about the Quarter Cities Transitway, and it was never about holding up the state for money. This was about more fundamental questions about the project. And so let me go through where we are on this issue. All of us agree that there's a need for transportation solutions in this problem-plagued corridor. And toll financing might be appropriate and tolls might be useful as a demand management strategy, but the State Legislative Oversight Committee has criticized the plan. 76 of 78 legislators, senators and delegates have opposed going forward with this plan now because that has not been evaluated whether the state needs to do this and needs to let Transurban raise the money or whether this money can be raised internally by the state. And this is a critical point because the state can borrow for less than Transurban. More importantly, Transurban is getting a profit on the mere fact that they're borrowing, and that's driving up the cost of this project. We need to deliver this project as cost effectively as possible, and the state's demonstrated they can do that on the ICC, a project I didn't like, but at least they've demonstrated they could do it right. To be fully clear, I would be ready to add the bridge back into this project at this time. But nothing that the state offered has mitigated the issues we had before. And I want to point out in relationship to what Greg Slater said, we've been negotiating for a long time. We've been in this for a while. We're the ones that suggested the use of the ICC to link 95 to I-270. I'm happy the state is doing that. And I'm the one at the beginning of this process that suggested that the state do the American Legion Bridge first, which was not the governor's plan. And I wrote to Secretary Slater before he was Secretary Slater, suggesting that instead of the grandiose plan that the governor originally had, because I believed, and he saw the same thing, that we could fit most of the 270 project within the existing pavement. We all want reduced impacts from congestion, but the governor is trying to strong arm us into all of this. And that is not the way we should be doing policy. And I see you've seen a lot of misinformation from his PAC. I've never proposed a solely transit plan to replace this project. I don't believe that was feasible. but I do support going forward. We're just trying to solve three major issues. One, this plan does not require that this project go from the bridge to Frederick. It stops at the ICC. We were trying to negotiate an agreement that absolutely this project goes from the bridge to Frederick and it be done in a uniform piece. We are still interested in reversible lanes on I-270. And the reason is that the state's projections for 2035 are pre-pandemic projections. There is a great likelihood that fewer people will be driving that miserable ride and more people will be telecommuting in the future. Two reversible lanes provide the lanes we need in the direction we need them at the times we need them. It reduces the cost of the project. It makes the cost of the tolls obviously go down, but provides the very same traffic relief that you get out of building 4 lanes. You're going to get 3 hours of use out of each set of 2 lanes. We could get 6 hours of use out of 1 set of 2 lanes, and that ought to be important to everybody here. These tolls are extraordinarily high. They're going to be unaffordable for many of our residents. This is hardly an egalitarian plan. So we think, we should continue. We want to continue negotiating this. I would put the bridge back in, and I would leave it to us to work out with the state the details of how we deal with 270 and how we deal with the western part of 495. We don't think we're far apart, but there's no reason to stop a negotiation now. And there's nothing that we were given that obviates those 2 problems. And so those concerns remain. Obviously, the financing issues in the state legislature remain. So we're hoping that we can maintain the disapproval of this project and give us more time to work with the state to deal with the rest of it, but put the bridge back in as an act of good faith so that it's clear we're actually interested in trying to solve this problem. I believe that we need to get to a solution here. I fully support a solution that includes road work. We're not making this contingent on transit, but we do believe that transit needs to be a component of it. And we'd appreciate the support of this body. The chair mentioned that, one of the COG's priorities, TPB's priorities, was mobility for regional residents. This actually minimizes.
I do have to say that our time is up.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, we're next going to move to, I believe, Montgomery. I think it's Councilmember Orland, I think. I would also ask folks, make sure you use in the chat feature, raise your hand in that feature. That way I can see you. Because the way the screen is locked by TPB, I'm only able to see the screen. So I'm not going to see your hand if you're waving it frantically. So I need you to use the chat feature unless I can get TPB staff to unlock my screen so that I can see in gallery view, but I'm unable to do that right now. So let me turn to, I believe it was Montgomery County Council, and then I see Neil Harris, your hand up, so I'll turn to you after that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could, staff will assist you with monitoring the hands up as well. The whole idea was to try to focus on the speaker and the time and you as the discussions first. We are trying to mimic as best as we can some in-person experience. So I think we would reset the time clock to 2 minutes, please. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We're on 2-minute rounds.
Am I on? Okay. My name is Glenn Orland. I'm an analyst in Montgomery County Council. I am not a councilman, but I am the longtime alternate member to the TPB for the Councilmember Glass, who could not attend today. And in fact, I was the alternate to Councilmember Elrich when he was a council member for 12 years. So I've been around the block here a few times. The county council supports the revised resolution that was proposed by the county executive, the substitute with the technical adjustments. Several reasons. First of all, it does address congestion to some degree. There's no one who is disbenefited by this amongst the users. People can choose to pay the toll or not. It's not a forced thing. And folks who are not paying the toll and staying in the general use lanes will see some benefit at no extra cost to them. And of course, no cost to the taxpayer for any of this. Secondly, and probably more importantly to the council, is that these express toll lanes effectively are transit guideways. There is an opportunity here to provide a very rapid rapid transit system going between several points up and down the I-270 corridor, even from Frederick when it's done, all the way down to not just to Bethesda area, but over to Tyson's and other Virginia locations along the express lanes there, much faster than what they can today. The point about that was just made about how the project only goes to I-370. That's true in terms of the South Phase 1 South project. However, this action addresses both Phase 1 South and Phase 1 North, and basically includes money in the constrained long-range plan to carry the project all the way up to Frederick. So it does include that. We are looking for 3 conditions in this amendment. One is that of the $145 million of money that's to be paid by the P3 contractor to the state for reimbursement for development costs, that's at least $60 million of that be available to be used for the design of either the Carter Cities Transway or the Maryland 55 Bus Rapid Transit project. It continues to say at least $300 million to support other transit initiatives in the corridor.
Mr. Orland,
am I out of time?
Your 2 minutes are already up. Yes.
All right. Well, said enough.
Yeah. Walter and I are both on.
Okay. Thank you. I do see Neil Harris. I see your hand
we're
up.
also going to have,
Mr. Walkinshaw, I think you're unmuted, Mr. Walkinshaw.
So Virginia should be unanimous or very
Walkinshaw?
close to it.
Mr. Walkinshaw, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're unmuted. Okay. Thank you. Neil Harris, I saw your hand up in the chat, so let me turn to you next.
Thank you, Chairman Allen and TPB members. My name is Neil Harris of the Gaithersburg City Council and a longtime member of this board. The City of Gaithersburg's position on this project is that we need your help as members of the board. Just so that you understand our position, we have no metro stops in our city. The end of the red line at Shady Grove is below the border of Gaithersburg. We are reliant on highways much more than closer in jurisdictions. The additions of funding for long-planned transit improvements, including the Carter Cities Transitway and the Route 355 BRT, are also vital for us, adding higher quality transit options that have never been available for Gaithersburg and points north to Frederick. In fact, those options have probably been stuck in that miserable traffic that the county executive alluded to on 270. So what I'm asking you for today is to understand the needs of our city and the residents of the outer reaches of our county, and to join us and our county council to vote to replace the Legion Bridge and expand I-495 and 270 between the GW Parkway and the city of Frederick, and bring that back into the air quality conformity analysis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. I do see several people have raised their hands, so I'm going to just kind of do my best to have a lineup here. So I have Bridget Newton next, Mark Corman, Patrick Rohan, and then Nancy King. And we'll just kind of keep doing our best to follow that order. So Ms. Newton, let me turn to you next.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I would like to ask a question of VDOT. If they could confirm that there is a clause in the VDOT agreement with Transurban whereby transit between Virginia and Maryland across the bridge is strongly discouraged through a heavy financial penalty to Virginia.
This is Rob Carey from VDOT. That's not correct.
That is not correct. So there is no, I'm just going to say this for the record. There is no penalty to Virginia for putting transit either on the American Legion Bridge or along 495 and 95.
Along 495, that is correct.
And 95?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to check.
So I would also make a motion to table this conversation. First of all, getting an email at 11:45 that makes a correction to an email that we received at 9 something this morning is just highly unusual. We have not given our subject matter experts within the Transportation Planning Board time to review, nor had the city of Rockville seen this until this morning. I do agree with my colleagues in Virginia, in Gaithersburg, the other Virginia, that we need transit in this area, but unfortunately, this plan does not bring us transit. And I don't think anybody realizes what the tolls will really be. They are estimated to be $50 one way from 370 to the American Legion Bridge during rush hour. Finally, I think that We are really doing a disservice, and I would ask that this motion be tabled and brought back at the August meeting when we've all had full time to consider the ramifications and what the real facts are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, can I add to my answer to correct that?
I think, hang on one second, Mr. Carey, if I can. Because what I gotta do first, I'm doing my best to follow procedure here. So let me first turn to our council to ask if the motion to table essentially is now the motion on the table. Mr. Carey, I'll make sure we come back to you in just a moment so we can do that. But to Sharon, if we have, does the motion to take second, or is a motion to table come on the table and then call for a vote?
You need a second.
Second.
Yes, it is a priority. Yes.
Okay. All right. I can't see who just said second, but I can.
County Executive. County Executive Elrich.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Elrich. All right. So we have a motion to table. And then Sharon, I'm going to ask you this other follow-up question. Is a motion to table debatable or not? I know what it is in my parliamentary rules, but can you tell me, is a motion to table debatable, or is it call the question on a motion to table?
I believe you would call the question, but I will yield to you, Mr. Chairman, on that.
All right. That's my understanding as well. Just want to confirm with you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that everybody knows what we have in front of us then. So we have a motion to table that's been properly seconded. That now becomes the primary motion on the table. Underneath that, we then have the amended motion. So to Mr. Carey, who wanted to be able to speak to it, since we have the primary motion to table in front of us right now, once we have that act, then I can turn back to you to quickly, you said you wanted to correct something, so I'll turn back to you right after that.
It's done 1:30.
All right.
1:30, I don't think so.
So motion then, let me turn to Lynn. And Lynn, do we do that vote as a weighted vote? Do we do that vote as a straight vote?
So you would have to call for the weighted vote. So we can take a roll call vote. That would be what I would do. And then if you wanted to make it a weighted vote, then someone or you would have to call for that.
Got it. I would start with a roll call vote then.
Okay, just getting my team ready. You guys ready? Just give you a minute. So just like I do roll call, I'm gonna state the agency or the jurisdiction, and you go ahead and then say if you could say your name and your vote, that would be super helpful for the minutes. All right, District Council Brooke Pinto. So yes is motion to table, which means, and correct me if I'm wrong, this will, the whole thing is for next month. Is that correct? I guess I'm asking Sharon.
That's what the motion was.
I just heard the statement made that the motion to table was till next month, but there's no meeting scheduled right now. So
actually, Sharon, I'm sorry, real fast. A motion to table would be to remove it from, essentially take it off the table. It would not be a motion to postpone or a motion to a future date. So a motion to table does not mean that it comes up next month. It means it's off the table. At future meetings, there could then be a motion to take something off the table, but a tabling of a motion means that it is off the table and it does not guarantee coming back up.
that is absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman. It actually could be brought up later in this meeting, depending on how the meeting goes.
True.
But you are correct. I'm sorry, I was just clarifying that right now there is no meeting scheduled for next month. So yes, sir.
Correct.
You're correct.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure for all our members, before we start the roll call, Lynn, I just want to make sure everyone's clear. So a motion to table means motion to take it off the table, meaning that it is no longer before us. It does not mean motion to postpone, for example, or motion to a date certain, which would automatically bring it back before us. So I just want to make sure everyone knows what we've got in front of us. Okay. So with that, let me turn back to you for the roll call on this.
So yes, be very clear. So yes is that we're no longer talking about it right now. That's an easy way to put it. And no means we continue to talk about it. All right.
And can I just ask a question on this? This is Brooke Pinto from DC.
Mm-hmm.
So if we motion to table it today, it can be moved for a discussion at any time in the future?
Correct. A motion to table means that the motion, which is our underlying motion, has been tabled. So it is off the agenda. it is correct that someone could make a motion later in this meeting or at our next meeting to say, I want to make a motion to remove it from the table, meaning to put it back in front of us. So that would be a procedural option that can take place.
Okay, and can I just ask the gentleman who moved to table this vote, is that because you're hoping that there is an interim resolution to?
Ms. Pinto, I would say I don't believe, because a motion to table is not debatable, I don't believe we're able to, because then we're starting to debate motions. Let me turn again to our general counsel to confirm that.
You are correct, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Allen, this is Mike Les from Laurel. Just so I understand this, if in fact the current motion to table, it means that the resolution that was voted on last month stands. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the clarity here. And because I'm my Robert's Rules of Order hat on as much as I can here, what I would ask if you have questions like that, the right thing to do would be a point of order. That way we're making sure that we're clarifying, not debating. Okay. All right, Lynn, back to you.
So a yes vote means we're not talking about it right now. It's off the table. Okay. Miss Pinto from the District Council.
No.
Charles Allen from the District Council.
No.
Christina Henderson from the District Council.
No.
Andrew Trueblood, Office of Planning.
Abstain.
District Department of Transportation.
Abstain.
Moving to Maryland, City of Bowie.
Yes.
So yes is off the table. Charles County.
Reuben Collins, no.
Thank you. College Park.
Patrick Wayan, yes.
Gotcha. Frederick County.
Jan Gardner, no.
Thank you. City of Frederick.
Kelly Russell, no.
Thank you. City of Gaithersburg.
Neil Harris, no.
Thank you. City of Greenbelt.
Hi, Emmett Jordan, yes.
Thank you. City of Laurel.
Mike Les, no.
Thank you. Montgomery County Executive Elrich.
Yes.
Thank you. Montgomery County Legislative, Mr. Orland.
Oh.
Prince George's County Executive.
Terry Bellamy, no.
Thank you. Prince George's County Legislative.
No.
Ms. Taveras? Okay, no. City of Rockville.
Yes.
Thank you. Tacoma Park.
Casey Costick, yes.
Thank you. Maryland House of Delegates.
Mark Corman, yes.
Maryland Senate.
Nancy King, no.
Maryland Department of Transportation.
Paul Lewis, no.
Thank you. Moving on to Virginia. City of Alexandria.
Kenneth Aguirre, nay.
Thank you. Arlington County.
Christian Dorsey, no.
City of Fairfax.
David Meyer, no.
Thank you. Fairfax County Legislative.
Walter Alcorn, no.
Thank you.
James Walkinshaw, no.
Thank you. City of Falls Church.
Dave Snyder, no.
Thank you. Fauquier County.
Adam Schellenberger, no.
Thank you. Loudoun County.
Matt Letourneau, no.
Thank you. Loudoun County. Ms. Umstad, are you still here? Thank you.
I'm voting no.
Okay, voting no. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
No.
so I recorded a no vote for Miss Kristen Umstad. Okay.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. City of Manassas.
Pam Sabeski, no.
Thank you. Manassas Park.
Jeanette Rischel, no.
Prince William County.
Ann Wheeler, no.
Prince William County.
Paula Belita, no.
Thanks, Paolo. Virginia House of Delegates,
David Reed, no.
Virginia Senate.
David Marsden, no.
Thank you. Virginia Department of Transportation,
Rob Carey, no.
WMATA.
Mark Phillips, abstain.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the vote. So just give us a minute to add it up, please. Okay, great, thanks. So we have 7 yeses, 29 noes, and 3 abstains. So no has it, the motion stays on the table.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lynn. I believe that Ms. Newton still had about a minute and a half left on her clock from that. So I think I'm going to turn back to Ms. Newton so that she can finish her round.
Can I hold my time, Chair?
As in you want to reserve it for later in this round?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right, so TPB staff, help me make a note of that. To Mr. Carey, you want to make a quick point of order in terms of correcting something you said? I'll give you just a quick second, and then I'll move to our
very
next
quickly,
speaker.
just to clarify on the I-95 corridor, the metro could not be expanded within the right-of-way of the I-95 corridor, but it could be expanded outside of the immediate corridor, like the yellow line or blue line, as an example.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Next on my lineup, I had Mark Corman. So let me turn to Mr. Corman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have questions, so hopefully the response time to the questions doesn't eat into my time. So it's for Secretary Slater or Secretary Lewis. I don't know who wants to handle them, but I'll try to just ask all three and then you can respond. First of all, on the forward funding of the Corridor Cities Transit with the development rights fee, Secretary Slater, your team previously explained to the General Assembly that the development rights fee was to repay the Transportation Trust Fund for the money already expended. So is that no longer the case? Are we no longer getting reimbursed? How is that being adjusted? My second question is the Montgomery County Council's press release used the terminology that the bridge will structurally support a future transit line. I was wondering if you could tell me what that means. That I think for people in this Zoom or WebEx, that brings to mind the Wilson Bridge, which was built to be able to hold a metro line. So I'm trying to understand what that means. And then finally, on the 5 projects that are threatened to be defunded, at least 3 of us on this call know that the current CTP and for the future 5 years has $0 for those projects. So I want to know if the draft CTP coming out this fall will show funding for those if you get your way here today. So I don't know if Secretary Slater or Secretary Lewis want to respond.
Thank you for the question. Secretary Slater here. I can try and address those questions. First, on the CCT or the development rights fee. So the development rights fee will go back into the trust fund to repay the project development activities as part of this. And then we will utilize a portion of that to make an investment in the engineering of the CCT. And so that was part of that discussion, was how can we get momentum on that project sooner rather than waiting kind of longer during this construction period, but getting the project activity started on that one. The bridge and the transit capacity. So where we're approaching the American Legion Bridge is a little different than we approached the Woodrow Wilson. So the American Legion Bridge is being thought through with what's called adaptive capacity. So you build the substructure of the bridge and the real structural components of the bridge to be able to adapt to something like a rail line or a transit line for greater weight later on, but you don't actually expand the footprint of the bridge at this time. You wait till you're needed to do that. And then on the CTP, so when you look at the constrained long range plan and the CTP, they're very different documents. And you are correct that our current 6-year CTP did not have any of the funding for that, but we needed to address the American Legion Bridge funding before 2035. And so those were the categories of projects. We're currently in the process of evaluating the draft CTP and what that looks like and how we make those investments. I will tell you that our priorities are still maintained the same they were. We have to invest in system preservation and we have to invest in planning and engineering for that next round of projects. Some of those projects on that list could very well be part of that discussion, but we have to go through our CTP process to make that determination.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could reclaim my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Let me just say to my colleagues, if you're a new face here or you're changing your vote from last month, I hope it's on the merits of the project. I disagree with you about some of those merits, not all of them, but some of them, but I respect that if it's on the merits. If you're changing your vote because of new promises, that's a mistake. There are no new promises. If you're changing your vote because project funding was threatened, that's a mistake. No project funding was threatened. What was threatened was a line item and a long-range plan, many of which have been in there since before I got out of high school. If you're changing your vote because of dark money ads put on by a politician, that's probably the biggest mistake of all. So I hope those of you who voted a certain way last month are changing your votes for the right reasons and not because you've been fooled by funding threats, recycled promises that have already been documented, or raw politics from one of the elected officials in my state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Next, I have Patrick Rohan on the lineup. And then Nancy King, I've got you following Patrick Rohan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Patrick Wen, Mayor of the City of College Park. I'll be brief. I just want to state that we continue our opposition to this expansion. The MDOT made several promises back in the 1990s when they last expanded I-270 that would resolve congestion for several decades to come, and those promises did not bear out. The I-270 was back at the state that it was before the expansion within about 5 years. And there's no reason, we haven't been given any information to show that this time around is any different. This last week, the College Park City Council voted unanimously to continue our position in opposition to the expansion of the Beltway and I-270, and stated that while road widening may provide short-term congestion relief, studies have shown that in the long term, similar projects lead to more driving, more trips, and more sprawl. The City of College Park supports smart growth development and transit alternatives instead of roadway expansion. A vote to remove these projects is not a vote for congestion, but it's a vote to stop using the same tactics to supposedly address congestion that haven't been working for the past several decades, to work together on a regional strategy to address congestion in a comprehensive way that is better for our environment, that is better for the people who live in our region. I will vote no on the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rohan. Next up, I've got Nancy King and then Casey Kostick. I see you after that. Ms. King.
Thank you. I just need a little bit of clarification on a couple different issues. It was stated that this project would stop at the ICC, and it's my understanding from the resolution before the TPB today that it will go to Frederick. That's one question for Secretary Slater. The whole idea of the tolls, there are various different numbers depending on who you want to talk to about what the toll rate's going to be. I've been led to understand that it would be $3.95, not $50 as a toll. That's quite a huge difference. I happen to be in rush hour on 270 this morning. I'd like to invite anybody that would like to come up and drive with me on that anytime. It took me from going from Montgomery Village Avenue to Shady Grove Road about 40 minutes this morning. So I don't know how much worse it can get, but traffic is alive and well. It's post-pandemic and there are lots of people out there. Anyway, so if Secretary Slater could just address those couple of questions for me.
Happy to, Senator King. Let me first touch on the Frederick piece. You are correct. So we have additional efforts focused on the northern sections of 270 to Frederick, but the P3 program is from the GW Parkway across the American Legion Bridge and up 270 to Frederick. That involves two environmental studies. One is the managed lane study that we have today that goes to 370. The second one is the managed lane study that goes to Frederick. So it's really about kind of managing in two different studies, but you are correct. The program goes all the way to Frederick, and we're just starting that kind of second piece now, and we're continuing to work along that corridor. On the toll front, there was a staff analysis prepared to the MBTA board for the tolling structure, and so the tolling structure for us is very different than what you've seen across the country. When we looked at the structure that we had laid out, we put a hard cap and a soft cap, and we laid out anticipated customer experiences. So let me talk about kind of Virginia and how they compare. And I can talk about how they compare to other efforts kind of nationwide. In Maryland, just on that phase 1 south, the most common trip is going to be about 6 miles. And that was really between GW Parkway and Maryland 187. The total distance between GW Parkway and 370 is about 12 miles. The average trip is about 7 miles. The weekday average tolls are projected to be around $4.42 northbound per trip and $3.44 southbound per trip. That's for a 2-axle vehicle in 2021 dollars. Comparatively in Virginia, the average tolls on 495 and 95 are around $5 and $8 per trip respectively. On 495, 87% of their trips were less than $12, and 85% of their customers spent less than $20 a month. And so it's similar experience on the 95 express lanes. Just comparatively, we looked at several different systems across the nation. When we looked at that, starting in Denver, looked at the US 36 hot lanes, the average trip price is around $5.84. When you look at what we have here, phase 1 south, that average trip is around $4 as we expressed. 495 of $5.40. 395 is around $8.45.
Secretary Slater?
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting the answer, but I do want to, just from the standpoint of time, I do need to ask that the answers be really tight and crisp.
Sure.
Perspective, just to make sure, because we have several people waiting to speak as well.
Absolutely. I can stand by the examples that I provided.
You can save the rest of my time there if you don't mind.
All right. Thank you, Ms. King. All right. Let's see. Next in the lineup, I had Casey Kostick. Casey, let me turn to you.
Thank you. I will try to be brief. I want to share my thoughts on this. I do not support adding this project back to the long range plan. I believe in the city of Tacoma Park, believe that the board made the right choice last month based on the goals and aspirations that we have for our long range plan. And I do not believe that the concerns we voiced last month have changed. This project is still moving us backwards on climate change. We've been seeing severe weather crises around the world, and we know that we need to take bold action on climate change. And this project is not it. These lanes mean more driving, they mean more GHGs in the long run, and a highway expansion is not the way to move our region forward in a positive, climate-informed, safety-focused, and equitable way. I do believe that there are more visionary alternatives for our region instead of adding lanes to already enormous highways. And we need to be looking at ways to fund the projects that focus on transit and ped and bike safety moving forward. I also believe that this board has an incredible responsibility and opportunity to plan a better future in our region, and that we've made a lot of progress towards that over the past several years. And I'm enthusiastic and hopeful based on that. But I do not believe, as we look forward to this plan, this visualized 2045, that this is the 2045 that I want to visualize. And I think we can do better than this. So I do not support adding this project back into the plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kostick. Next on first round, I think I've got Emmett Jordan.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Emmett Jordan. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Greenbelt. Our City Council met and we're unified in our opposition to the plan, the amended plan. We agree that the American Legion Bridge corridor is a priority for investment, and we appreciate the crucial needs of Gaithersburg and Frederick, but there's still significant flaws in this amended plan that have not been addressed. The plan does not address access and equity issues related to employment and housing affordability in the region. Prince George's County and other jurisdiction residents will pay more or be relegated to greatly increased congestion. Toll lanes are not an answer to reducing congestion. Number two, beginning this P3 process for selecting vendors before environmental impact studies are complete, that's problematic. The environmental impact study is still far from complete and has not really included effective, objective alternatives analysis for the project. So it's a flawed process. And there's still not a consensus among TPB jurisdictions. And finally, personally, I think there are numerous unintended consequences associated with repurposing HOV lanes. One transportation modality, ride sharing, has grown in popularity and impact, and significantly higher fares would be passed on to riders if there are unpredictable toll rates factored in. For a whole slew of reasons, we are continuing with our opposition to the plan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan. Next, I've got Jan Gardner. I see your hand up. I also saw, after that, I'll turn to Tavares. And then I've got Christian Dorsey and Matt Letourneau in the lineup.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator King asked one of my questions, so I will ask the second one. I would appreciate it if Secretary Slater or MDOT can speak to the commitment to appropriately scaled transit investments for the Phase 1 North component of the project. And I also want to clarify that the vote that I will cast today does represent the majority opinion of the County Council as well as myself. We have one vote here. We're not split between the council and the county executive as they are in Montgomery County. And that I have polled each member of the County Council in terms of determining that vote. So with that, I would ask for that question to be answered by MDOT.
Thank you, County Executive Gardner. I'm happy to answer that question. So the Phase 1 or the north section will have absolutely the same appropriate type of transit investment. The Board of Public Works has a condition that the transit investments from the toll revenue go directly to the impacted jurisdictions. So we will work with you on Phase 2 as well as a small portion of Montgomery County there as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jan Gardner. Anything further?
No, that completes my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, let me turn to Christian Dorsey. I'll just note, I also see that we've got Rob Carey's hand up. And then also, I think I saw Dave Snyder's hand up. So I will keep working everybody into the lineup here. So let me turn to Christian Dorsey.
I'm happy to proceed, Mr. Chair, but you did recognize Ms. Tavares, I believe.
You're right. Thank you very much. Ms. Tavares, let me turn to you, then I'll turn to Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dorsey, for remembering. So I think that the concerns raised are valid, but I personally, and I think with the discussion of the council, the vote that we will be taking is a reflection of the majority of the council of Prince George's County, not just myself and my personal opinion, because I don't think you would like to see my personal opinion. But at the end of the day, I think that it's TPB should not be a political. This is not a place for a political vote, in my opinion. I think that there are better places with the DEIS and the NEPA process. That's still to be determined. And I think that that's something that needs to be put before the Board of Public Works and within the General Assembly to be dealt with, not necessarily within the realms of TPB, which is a regional agreement body. There have been 16 alternatives considered that are in alignment with 2045, and this is something that we've regionally agreed. I think that there are contracting issues, but my question, I think, is if we don't do this now, again, the air conformity analysis means that we will not get a bite of the apple till 2025 for funding. Is that accurate given the last amendment that we made?
And Ms. Tavares, who are you directing that question to?
I guess, Mr. Conti, I mean, based on my understanding, based on my understanding, given the amendment that we put in, whoever becomes governor needs to be by 2023, putting in a plan for change, for implementation, for amendments for 2024, for funding for 2025. So if projects are taken out, we will be held hostage to 2025. Would that be accurate?
Okay, got it. So Conti, that's a question to you about when would a project be able to come back in?
Thank you, Mr. Veras. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Within the TPB process, if this project is not included in the current round of plan update and conformity, the earliest we would be able to do that or consider adding it back would be at the middle of next year, most likely after September of next year. And that will take an additional 9 months to get it all approved, which means we will be somewhere in the middle of 2023 before we get federal approval on an amendment to add this plan. That is the earliest from the TPB process.
But as robust, the air quality analysis, will it be as robust as it is? Because my understanding is that the air conformity analysis that we're doing now is only done every 4 years, as robust as.
Mr. Vera, sorry, I know our time is tight. So Conti, can you quickly answer that?
Yeah, there'll be no difference in the robustness of the air quality conformity analysis. It'll still be the same. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next let me turn to Christian Dorsey. I see Matt Letourneau's name up, Rob Carey after that, and then I think I had Dave Snyder after that. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, my previous vote last month of no was not intended to inject my jurisdiction or Virginia jurisdiction into the decision-making and processes of the state of Maryland, nor was it to relitigate P3s and dynamic tolling. Just for your benefit, I've been a part of enough of those conversations in Virginia, don't need to be a part of Maryland's. But as I look to the resolution that has been updated before us today, it has made significant improvements in my mind by clarifying the commitments to transit in terms of development, operations, and construction, of course, along with the commitment to engage with localities on the best solutions for implementation, as well as guardrails around proceeding. So for those reasons, I'm now prepared to move forward with a vote to include, though I would desire that this project meet with a Maryland regional consensus. It seems that that is not entirely possible at this point, and I don't unfortunately believe that the TPB is going to be a place that can resolve those outstanding differences. To be sure, I think that this project could certainly have been conceived to have been more transformative and more meeting my own personal policy desires or my own regional policy desires, but as a threshold matter, I think I want to reward progress, and there has been progress in the interested parties, at least in terms of what has been agreed to in the resolution, bringing in some more dissenting voices that were there a month ago. And as a threshold matter then, at least for my jurisdiction moving forward with this in the air quality conformity analysis is enough at this time. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Next, let me turn to Matt Letourneau. Mayor Rochelle, I see your name up. Or your hand up as well, so I've added you to the lineup. And I think I also see Marsden on the lineup too. So Matt Letourneau, let me turn to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me commend you for your professionalism and handling, which has to be one of the most challenging virtual meetings of the entire pandemic. So you're doing a great job. I just wanted to kind of take a big picture view on this as somebody who did have the pleasure of chairing the Council of Governments Board. Virginia set a path a number of years ago on express lanes, hot lanes. And they certainly have their pros and their cons, but there is no denying that they have certainly contributed to our success in economic growth and in helping to move more people. The added feature that we've seen in Virginia has been the ability to fund transit from these things, and we've done that successfully with projects all over Northern Virginia. A similar commitment is now being made in Maryland to use these proceeds as such. There's no question that climate change is going to require a whole series of solutions. But we should remember that congestion contributes to climate change, not just congestion from vehicles that are idling, but also the folks that have to take circuitous routes, myself included, often to try to avoid those bottlenecks. That adds vehicle miles traveled. So anything we can do to try to move the ball forward, to reduce congestion, to provide more revenue for transit is a very good thing. This is really the epitome of a regional project. Removing it from the plan does significantly harm Virginia's ability to fully see the vision, both for transit and for express lanes across the Legion Bridge and into Maryland. Our commuters, the constituents that we serve, know no boundaries when it comes to these issues. So I really think it's in the regional interest. And I've been in the position of not always loving some of these individual decisions as a individual jurisdiction, but it's in the regional interest to move forward. So I will be supporting the resolution, and I appreciate all the work that's been done to this point.
Thank you very much. And thanks for your compliments. Let me turn, I think I had Rob Carey next in the lineup. And then let me just run through my list here. I think I have Mayor Rochelle and then Marsden after that. I think that's it in terms of.
You have Dave Snyder. Dave Snyder.
Oh, sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave. I didn't see your hand up. Thank you, Dave. I'll make sure you're in the lineup. But let me turn to Rob Carey.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Virginia residents, businesses, and commuters have seen the incredible benefits of express lanes firsthand. Those benefits will not be different on the other side of the Potomac. Providing a similar network on the Maryland side joined with Virginia's is a paradigm-shifting win for multimodal mobility for the entire region. The solution to breaking the region's worst traffic jam, coupled with providing robust, reliable, speedy regional transit service, is before us today. Virginia's experience with express lanes can be instructive. The I-95 express lanes move twice as many people per lane compared with the I-95 general purpose lanes during rush hour. More proof is found in Virginia's transit experience. Since 2015, bus trips on I-95 express lanes have increased 150%. Beltway carpooling has increased 550% between the express lanes opening and early 2020. The transit trips on the Virginia Express lanes remove more than 112 million passenger miles each year from Virginia's highways. This prevents the release of more than 6,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions annually. The Maryland Traffic Relief Plan is no different. It will make significant and much needed investments in transit while benefiting all roadway users. Today, there is not a single bus route that runs across the American Legion Bridge. Together, Virginia's I-495 Express Lanes Northern Extension and the Maryland Traffic Relief Plan will change this. Express lanes function just like bus rapid transit lanes, rapidly moving transit riders along to their destinations. We are pleased to see Maryland's firm commitment to transit and working with all impacted localities and interest groups as their project develops. With the region expected to grow by more than 1 million people over the next 20 years, we believe that this project is vital to the region's mobility, continued economic vitality, and quality of life for all. For these reasons, the Commonwealth strongly encourages the TPB to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, let me turn to Mayor Rochelle. Then I have Marsden and then Dave Snyder.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I just want to say, I personally do not believe that this is a political vote. I believe this is a vote in which we have to act as a regional body and consider what is best for the entire region. Therefore, Manassas Park supports the resolution that restores the Maryland 395-270 Express Lane project to the conformity analysis because of its regional importance. And I would add that we hope that MDOT has a firm commitment to work with impacted localities. Thank you, Chair Allen.
Thank you very much. Next, let me turn to Mr. Marsden.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This is Senator Dave Marsden. The region needs to move as one for our economic future, for our transportation future, more than ever. It used to be that Maryland and Virginia could operate separately with the river that divided us. That's no longer the case. Our economic future depends on good transportation, and express lanes are the pathway to commuter transit through buses. There, as Rob has said, there are no bus routes that go across the river at this point. Let's unite us. Let's bring a way for us to connect with each other, to bring Bethesda and Tyson's Corners into a region where people have transportation opportunities to work in one place and live in another. It's critical that we get this done, and roadways are also critical to the future, which is likely to involve driverless electric shared vehicles that will need roadways to move efficiently. It will also provide for electric vehicle transit. The future is now. We have to act. Let's move. Let's vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marsden. Next, let me turn to Mr. Snyder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to start by saying this debate is exactly what the TPB was created to do. And I want to thank everyone involved for a very rich debate about transportation and how we best move forward. First, from the standpoint of Virginia, there are a lot of our transit projects along 495 that will run into a wall of gridlock on the American Legion Bridge unless some action is taken. So from a Virginia standpoint, it's critical that major action be taken to reduce the gridlock on the American Legion Bridge. From a larger region-wide perspective, I want to go back to our vote last month where we took a fundamentally critical vote to not only approve the existing projects that were before us, minus this one, but more importantly, to set this region in a direction to truly meet effective climate change goals with regard to the transportation sector. And this project and all projects will be subject to that thinking and that roadmap going forward. The second point I want to make from a regional standpoint is my hope, if we're doing our job sooner rather than later, the cars that are on the American Legion Bridge are going to be zero emission vehicles and transit vehicles well. Finally, to me, it's critically important that we do everything we can with this project to make it available in the future in a cost-effective way, not only to bus rapid transit, but to light rail and heavy rail as well. I want to thank everybody involved. These are critical issues, and I will vote for placing this project back into the context that we established with our vote last month. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. That's all the hands I saw raised for first round. We are not going to have time for second round because it's already approaching 2 o'clock. We did have members who had reserved about a minute or so each. So Ms. Newton, I was going to turn back to you for your remaining minute. And then King, you had reserved 1 minute. Then I might make a brief comment before we move to the weighted vote.
Thanks, Chair Allen, and to all the members of the TPB. I very much appreciate the conversation as well. Mr. Snyder is correct. That is what we're supposed to do. And to Ms. Taveras, I am disappointed that this became political, but that wasn't done by the city of Rockville or even Montgomery County, really. That was done by MDOT/SHA and the governor. I think the devil is in the details, my friends. And as a former chair of the Transportation Planning Board, we set goals for air quality, for transit, for equity, for all of those things that are so important to this region. We've been told to think regionally, act locally. And that is exactly what the city of Rockville is asking you to do. Please think regionally. This project is not ready for prime time. Secretary Slater addressed the average tolls. The question was about rush hour tolls. And the rush hour tolls won't be $50 a mile, but they will be $50 for the 13 miles from 370 to the American Legion Bridge. There's an article in the Washington Post on Saturday, May 22nd, 2021, where a VDOT spokesperson is quoted saying, under Virginia's contract with Transurban, which is the Australian company that operates the state's Beltway HOT lanes, the company could seek compensation from the state if a new rail line in the corridor siphoned off toll revenue. The contract expires in 2087, said a spokeswoman. The state's payment is equal to a total reduction in Transurban's toll revenue that results from travel by train instead of driving. So please, my friends, this is important. And the reason I asked for the issue to be tabled was to give all of us an opportunity to really dig into the new proposal by MDOT/SHA and the amendment from Montgomery County. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And then I believe, Ms. King, you had reserved 1 minute.
Yes, I did. Thanks. You know, I'm a new member to this committee, and but this issue is for sure not new to me. It is I see the difference between the up county where I live and the down county below the Beltway, especially where other people live. And I'm very much in favor of transit, but I'm also looking at the convenience for people in Frederick and on up through the state of Maryland, that it's not convenient. So my goal is to move people, not just with one mode, but with a whole lot of different modes. And I will be supporting moving ahead with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. All right, I believe that we've had everyone their hand up to speak on first round. I mentioned due to time, we are not going to be able to have a second round. I'll be honest, I wanted to not speak around my own comments until we had a chance for everyone to speak, because obviously as the chair, part of my job here is to make sure we are having that type of discussion. And if I can, make sure I have a two-minute clock too, so I don't exceed my 2 minutes. I will say, as I've listened to the debate and listened to the conversation, I do appreciate everybody's comments here. And should this resolution pass today, I want to thank MDOT and some of the jurisdictions in Maryland that worked to put forward what is a revised resolution in front of us. I do think about this, though, and I am moved by thinking about what is the name of what we're doing, Visualize 2045. And as I think about what the process looks like and what I am visualizing for 25 years from now, is this what I have in my vision of that? I am concerned about adding additional lanes. I'm concerned about induced demand. I'm concerned about increased emissions from what can take place. That said, I also am concerned about, as I hear my colleagues in outer jurisdictions talk about what their connections can be and should be for the entire region. And I think that's been a very healthy and good debate that we have had. For me, I think part of why I am not going to support this resolution today is that we do have an opportunity as early as September of next year to put forward another proposal. And so one that can be in alignment with and be in line with the values and vision that is being put forward with this. So again, should this resolution move forward, I appreciate the hard work that's gone into it, but I am still concerned to see an opportunity just in 2022 to be able to bring back a project that can try to address even more deeply a lot of the concerns that have been expressed through this. So with that, I've got to assume my clock is up. So with that, what we are going to move to is a weighted vote. I'm sorry.
Chair, could I offer an amendment? Is that in order?
This is Montgomery County Executive. Let me turn to the General Counsel because I am not sure if we're able to offer an amendment here, but let me get your.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the friendly amendment was made by Montgomery County, so I'm not sure that you could rule it in order. I leave that to the chair's discretion.
I don't know if this would be friendly or not, but I would like to offer an amendment.
Okay. I will say, being at 2, is the amendment in writing? One of the things I'm concerned about is being able to have all the members be able to process and understand an amendment that might be offered.
I could turn this into an everyone chat item. It's very simple.
Why don't, very briefly, say what the amendment is.
Okay.
Just to make sure from a process standpoint, here's what I'm going to do.
This is the language of the amendment.
Hang on one second. Hang on one second, sir. I just want to make sure everybody knows what I'm going to do here, I guess then. If you're saying a simple amendment, I'm going to give you a chance to say it real fast, assuming that it's a fairly simple oral amendment. I'll turn to MDOT if you think that it may be something they accept as friendly. And so let me see about that first. If it is a complex amendment, I am anxious or nervous about being able to accept something when the board is not going to be able to fully understand what may be in front of us. But why don't I give you the chance to at least say what it is?
Okay. So there's been a lot of discussion about Frederick and when this thing gets there. And in fact, there's no certainty that it gets there, which leaves Frederick and northern Montgomery County possibly hung out to dry. So this is the amendment. MDOT will initiate NEPA evaluation of I-270 between 370 and 270 within 6 months of this resolution and will reconstruct I-270 as one consolidated project. That guarantees that when the NEPA process is done, the state goes forward with construction of the northern part of this. They're already 2 years behind, so we know
Okay.
it's not going to be able to start contemporaneous with this, but
All
it
right.
would guarantee
So-
that it gets done.
I'm going to very briefly here turn to Secretary Slater because I still am not clear as to what exactly the amendment said. And I'm also not sure if MDOT can, in the moment, be able to say what they could or couldn't do. But Secretary Slater, would that be something you would accept as friendly?
I think there are two parts to what I'm hearing. One is initiate NEPA. So we've already initiated pre-NEPA on the northern section. So I don't anticipate a challenge with that. The continuous construction there's a lot of economics involved in that we'd have to kind of work through that we can't really determine until we get into that section. So I think that's the more challenging part for us.
All right, so I'm going to just respectfully here, I'm not hearing that as it being accepted as friendly.
It's an unfriendly amendment, correct?
I think coming at the absolute end of an entire debate, I feel an obligation to my board members to rule that out of order just from the standpoint of we don't have it in writing, and so I'm not judging it based on the merits. I don't know if we are able to fully understand what's being put in front of us in an oral amendment like this, so I'm going to rule that out of order. So with that, let me now turn to Lynn, and then we will proceed with the weighted vote.
Okay, so quickly, so this is you're officially asking for to call a weighted vote. So we will then initiate the weighted vote. To be clear on what we're voting, since it's been an hour and so, let me just go back to where we started. So we have a resolution before you that Conti emailed out again this morning with changes offered by MDOT in Montgomery County. Those changes then had a little tiny edit that we added in at the end to be clear about the phase 1 and phase 2 project. And those were both supported by Montgomery County and MDOT, who have made the amendment or put this before us. I believe MDOT made the motion and then Kelly Russell seconded. So right now what we have is this complete amended package for your vote. Yes is to approve resolution R2 2022 as friendly amended. No would be to not approve it. Am I clear? Is everyone clear on this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So same as before, I will list your,
Lynn?
yes?
Can you please clarify what an abstention vote would mean in terms of weighted vote?
Sure. So when, so to abstain, so basically every vote counts. So there's action happening with each. So an abstention just means the weight gets redistributed among where you are in the pack. So every vote counts in a weighted vote. Okay, so okay, as before, I'm going to list your agency or jurisdiction, and if you could state your name and your vote, we would appreciate it for the minutes. All right, District Council Brooke Pinto.
Sorry, real quick, this is Andrew Trubod from Office of Planning. Could I make a request that the district go last?
Is that Ms. Pandak? What do you want me to do?
I believe that's up to the chair.
It is just about, if I understand, Mr. Trubod, you're asking just from a jurisdictional standpoint that the District of Columbia be after the other jurisdictions?
Precisely. Yeah, this is a primarily, as we heard in the discussion, of Maryland and Virginia issue, and I think it's important that those votes are made first.
Sure. Okay, that's fine by me then.
Okay, sounds great. I'll start with Maryland. The City of Bowie.
This is Adrian Boafo with the City of Bowie. We vote no.
Yeah, thank you. Charles County.
Ruben Collins, Charles County, yes.
Thank you. College Park.
Cedric Wen, Mayor of the City of College Park. We vote no.
Thank you. Frederick County.
Jan Gardner, we vote yes.
Thank you. City of Frederick.
Kelly Russell, we vote yes.
Thank you. City of Gaithersburg.
Bill Harris, we vote yes.
Thank you. City of Greenbelt.
Emmett Jordan, we vote no.
Thank you. City of Laurel. Oh, sorry. City of Laurel. City of Laurel, you're still there? Okay, we'll record City of Laurel is absent, guys. I think I skipped City of
Laurel.
Greenbelt.
This is Mike Les, Laurel, yes.
Oh, Laurel. Okay, so Laurel is voting yes. Thank you. City of Greenbelt.
I'll vote no again.
No, okay. Sorry, I'm probably have this too small for me. Montgomery County Executive Elrich.
Mark Elrich, Montgomery County Executive, I vote no.
No. Montgomery County Legislative, Mr. Orland.
Yes.
Yes. Prince George's County Executive. Mr. Bellamy, are you still here?
Yes, this is Terry Bellamy. Yes.
Yes. Okay, voting yes. Okay, that's what we recorded. Thank you. Prince George's County Legislative.
On behalf of County Council, the decision by the council is to vote yes on this matter.
Okay, thank you. We recorded yes. City of Rockville.
Donald Newton, Mayor, votes no.
No, thank you. City of Tacoma Park.
Casey Costick, no.
No. Maryland House of Delegates.
Mark Corman, no thank you.
No. Maryland Senate.
Nancy King, definite yes.
Yes. Maryland Department of Transportation.
Earl Lewis, yes.
Okay, moving on to Virginia. City of Alexandria.
Mechanic Aguirre, yes.
Yes. Arlington County.
Christian Dorsey, yes.
City of Fairfax.
David Meyer, yes.
Fairfax County Legislative.
Walter Alcorn, yes.
Fairfax
James
County.
Walkinshaw,
Also Fairfax
yes.
County. Okay, so Walkinshaw and Alcorn both voted yes. City of Falls Church.
Snyder votes yes for the City of Falls Church.
Thank you. Fauquier County.
Adam Schellenberger, yes.
Loudoun County.
Matt Letourneau votes yes.
Kristen Umstattd votes yes.
Thank you. City of Manassas.
For the City of Manassas, Pam Sebesky votes yes.
Yes. City of Manassas Park.
Jeanette Rischel votes yes.
Prince William County.
Bill Wheeler, yes.
Paula Blita, yes.
Thank you, Paulo. Virginia House of Delegates.
David Reed, yes.
Virginia Senate.
David Marsden, yes.
Virginia Department of Transportation.
Rob Carey, yes.
Moving on to the District of Columbia. District Council Brooke Pinto.
No.
No. District Council Mr. Allen.
No.
No. District Council Ms. Henderson. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
No.
Okay, Ms. Henderson voted no. That's what I heard. Office of Planning.
Yes.
Yes. District Department of Transportation.
Anna Chamberlain, yes.
Yes. Okay, and sorry, I guess someone is talking in the background. Just for everyone's information, WMATA is not part of the weighted vote. So that concludes the vote. If you can just give us a few minutes to confer, I'll be back in a minute. Thanks.
So, Mr. Allen, just for information, after the meeting today, we will be certifying the resolution with whatever the outcome is and with all of the updates and changes. So within the hour, people should have the latest document of the resolution as adopted.
Okay, great. Thank you, Conti.
Also, we have more than one person tracking. So we are verifying with all three people to make sure that we got it right.
I know you don't mess around with weighted votes, so we appreciate it. And just while we wait on that, just so folks know what'll come next, because I know folks may have appointments to get to after 2. In the event that the resolution passes, that essentially will be the end of our meeting and will adjourn, and there is no August meeting. In the event that the resolution does not pass, there'll be a brief notice of what the other projects would be, and then we would have to notice the August special meeting.
Chair, just as a point of order, I did hear Greenbelt vote twice. I think one was jokingly, but can we just make sure they're not being voted or counted twice?
Yes.
Sure, I will.
Yes, Mr.
Conti and Lynn can double check and make sure of that.
Yes, thanks.
I mean, a 7 without Maryland. That's been really a question.
Okay, let me just pull this up. So the yeses have it. What we're working on is no, we did not count Greenbelt twice. The way that the spreadsheet works, you can only enter one per line. That was my mistake for reading it the way I read it. So it's 28 yes, 10 no. And the weighted voting is yes, 10.6 and no, 4.3.
Mhm.
So R2-2022 as amended passes and puts the project back in.
Right. All right. Thank you, Lynn. All right. So that vote.
That's where we were. That's where we thought we would be.
And remember to mute yourself as you may have commentary following the vote. Lynn, all right, thank you. So that, to Lynn and Conti, that vote is officially recorded, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with that, then the resolution as amended passes. And so then from a next step perspective, Conti, TPB members will be receiving, and you said within about an hour or so, we'll be receiving an update.
Yes, on the fully updated past resolution as certified.
Got it. Okay. And with that, then part B of the agenda is no longer needed because part A was approved, which also means that we do not have a special meeting scheduled for August 18th, 2021. So you can free up that day on your calendars now. And then Conti, our next scheduled meeting then would be in September. And just before we adjourn, just for folks' calendar, can you tell us what that date is? I just don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, it would be September 22nd.
Okay.
It is not the third Wednesday because of the Labor Day holiday. It is the fourth Wednesday, and we do have 5 weeks in September. It is still 12 to 2, and our plan and hope is that it will be an in-person meeting primarily, but those who wish to participate virtually would be able to do that. We sure hope to see as many of you in person as we can.
Excellent. Yeah, so stay tuned for details about how we do our hybrid version of both in-person and remote. But with that, let me say again, thank you for everybody's very healthy and vigorous debate and conversation today. My thanks again to everybody who spent the last month or so working to get to the outcome today as well. I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of their summer and has a wonderful, safe time with friends and family, and look forward to seeing everybody again in September. So thank you all very much. And with that, we now stand adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.